So many people are carrying trauma around every single day. Sometimes all it takes is for us to just shut down.
I couldn't believe that something so natural to us changed the way that I can release trauma from my body.
Isn't it true that we lie to ourselves
We do.
when we're hurting?
Because at some point we learned that if we're vulnerable and we're real, we're not going to be accepted. The trauma is going to come out. But is it going to come out in the healthy way?
They're actually spewing trauma. The yelling, the screaming, the physical abuse.
God gives us everything, right? It's how you use it, right? And
Your
so
intention. When we clear our trauma and we peel back those layers, we can trust our intuition.
It is safe for you to pray, get a counselor, but it's also okay for you to try some of these practices. Help is available.
Yeah.
What's up, everyone? Henry Fernandez here. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. You know, trauma is something many people, if not millions, deal with every day, from traumatic experiences in childhood to wounds. From failed relationships, people find different ways to cope with the pain they carry. Now, some turn to therapy, while others unfortunately rely on medication or substances to try to manage that trauma. But today, we're exploring a different approach, one that is very unique, and you certainly don't want to miss it. Can something as simple, as natural as breathing, help release emotional trauma? That's a very interesting question, so don't go anywhere. Today's conversation is going to be a very powerful one. We'll be right back after this.
Hey, real ones. Thanks for tuning in to the HFN podcast. We are so glad you're here. Listen, do all that great YouTube stuff, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff. That helps us not just know that you're engaged with us, but it helps us get a larger reach, right? Because we know that algorithm is something, right? So help us out here. Let's spread the word of all the amazing things that we're doing here at the Henry Fernandez podcast. Also, jump in the comments. Let us know. Did you like the episode? Did you not like the episode? You got some beef with us? You don't? You want to tell your friends? All that good stuff. It's okay. I can handle it. We can handle it over here. All right. So another way that you can help spread the word about the Henry Fernandez podcast is through some merch. So not only are you sharing the good news, you're looking good at the same time. So go ahead, grab your merch right now. Check the link in the description. Check the QR code on the screen right now. Grab it, tell a friend, maybe buy it as a gift. And we want to help you on your journey here at the Henry Fernandez podcast. We want to make sure that you have your ebook. Have you gotten your ebook yet? It is a way and a tool for you to not just be hearers of the word, but to also be a doer of the word as well. So use that ebook, take it, you can read it. Listen, I know when we say ebook, who has time for that? We got time because it's a short read. It's a really quick read, probably about an hour from cover to cover. And get this, we've got it on audio for you. So no excuses. Go ahead, grab that ebook, listen to it in your car, listen to it while you're working out, you're taking a walk, whatever you want to do. Just get that ebook, get that word in you, and walk it out. Whew, I'm out of breath. But interesting enough, we're going to be talking about breathing. So come join me. Let's see you on the set.
Now, trauma has a way of shaping how we see ourselves, how we relate to others, and sometimes even how we relate to God. And while people seek healing in many different ways, today we're having a conversation about a unique, holistic approach that focuses on something we all do every single day. Today, I'm joined by my very special guest, Vanessa Rosen. Now, Vanessa is a holistic therapist and breathwork facilitator who helps people release emotional trauma through intentional breathing practices. Really never heard that before, so it's going to be a very interesting conversation. Now, after experiencing trauma and abuse in her own life, she discovered a holistic approach that helped her begin the process of healing and restoring her connection with God. Today, she has built a practice dedicated to helping others find healing through the same method that helped transform her life. Now, joining me as my co-host today is Charlotte.
hey.
Good to have you, Charlotte.
And welcome.
Are you breathing okay today?
I am here and I can breathe.
All right, and Vanessa, welcome to the
Hi,
podcast.
thank you for having me.
So glad to have you here today. Now, you have done so much in this area of breath work and how to use a holistic way of helping people to get over trauma, right? So I want us to start with this. For those who may be hearing this whole breath work for the very first time, what is that? Could you kind of explain to us?
Yeah. It's funny. I was very skeptical when I heard about this myself, and I had to try the experience. And when I did, I couldn't believe that something so natural to us changed the way that I can release trauma from my body. And so you basically lie down, and a facilitator guides you through 45 minutes of very specific breathing patterns. And it's combined with breath holds and music. And the sound frequencies also kind of play along with the breathing patterns. And it's wild because you feel the energy leaving your body. You feel this tension and trauma leaving your body. It's like a tingling sensation in your hands, your feet. A lot of the times it's the jawline. And it's just so powerful to feel it, just moving through our bodies. And then it quiets the mind. It quiets the stories that we keep telling ourselves. And it leaves us with basically our intuition and this quiet moment where nothing else is in the way, and this beautiful connection to God. Because that's definitely something that really helped me strengthen that connection that I had lost.
Right. Now, let's talk a little bit about that. Now, you have gone through trauma yourself.
I have. Yeah.
Right? And it sounds like you've used this practice to help you. Someone listening right now, watching, maybe thinking, this is crazy stuff. What you talking about? Laying down.
And I understand.
And waves and all this music, and this is some spooky stuff. How could God beat all of this? Oh, I can't believe Henry is doing all of this on his podcast, and so forth. But here's the thing, though, Vanessa. So many people are carrying trauma around every single day. And sometimes all it takes is for us to just shut down, shut the world out, breathe, and just let nature take its course.
Exactly.
So here's the question. Something as simple as this, where did this come from? This has been around a long time.
It has. It was first developed by indigenous tribes, and this was their way of healing and dealing with stress and connecting with the divine. So it's nothing new.
Wow.
It's nothing new.
Wonderful. Now, what are some of the signs that some people or someone may be carrying unresolved trauma? What are the signs that you knowing what you do, help educate the public? How do we know someone is carrying trauma?
So I think one of the signs is just the numbness. I think sometimes when you're carrying all this pain and you're not releasing it and you're trying to kind of go through life, I'm so strong, I don't need help. You get to a point where even crying is difficult. You could be going through the worst thing, even a death of a loved one, and your body just can't cry anymore because your nervous system is so used to just numbing. So that was definitely a sign that I experienced. And just waking up anxious, waking up like you just went on a roller coaster when nothing has happened, and just short temper, losing patience easily.
But you see, stuff like that, though, a lot of people like Charlotte would begin to think like, oh, there's no trauma in my life. You know, I mean, just because I'm short-tempered and you know, full of little anxiety, ain't no trauma in me, you know, and so forth. Isn't it true that we lie to ourselves
We do.
when we're hurting?
I think we lie to ourselves mostly because we're expected, right? Society tells us that it's not okay to struggle. You know, it's not okay to show it. We've been trained to kind of suppress our emotions. And, you know, there's a lot of shame that we carry through our lives about the things that happen to us. And we are so good at being able to block those things to move forward with life with that mask of perfection, with that mask of everything is okay, I'm so strong. Because I remember telling myself how strong I was, that none of this affected me and that I was fine, you know. And then I had this powerful breakthrough with this breath work, and I was crying the loudest in the room because I was holding on to those suppressed emotions for so long, and my body really just wanted to release it.
Stay right there because, and I'll let Charlotte jump because I see the
I got some
anxiety.
questions. I got some
see
questions.
it over there. Because you mentioned that for a long time you just been carrying certain things in you. What was it that made you say, I need to do something different? Maybe this breath work or whatever it is. Because see, that's the problem. A lot of us, we haven't yet to reach that breaking point
Yeah.
because we keep lying to ourselves. I'm okay.
Right.
Because society paints this picture that you don't cry, don't show your emotions, don't let them see you sweat.
Right.
What was it for you that caused you to say, I got to let go now and let God?
Right. I think the moment my daughter was born, you know, and I realized that these cycles had been happening for so many years in my family.
Cycles.
And that I had to be the one to step up to the plate and change them, because I just saw this beautiful, precious child, and I was like, I do not want this child to go through what I went through, and I don't want her to suffer, you know, from my anxiety or, you know, not having enough patience or, you know, carrying this pain inside of me that, you know, it can limit the way that you parent. And I knew that's not what I wanted in my life.
Very good answer.
Yeah, no, that's powerful.
Yes.
Thank you for being transparent and vulnerable.
Yeah.
So I do have a lot of questions, but before I jump into that, though, I do want to kind of lay some foundation, right? So throughout the Bible, we clearly see that breath is closely associated with life, spirit, and restoration. So before we start jumping in deeper, I want to highlight a few scriptures, all right, to support this idea. Now, we know that in Genesis, it talks about God breathing life into man. So Genesis chapter 2:7 says, Then the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. Now, if you just even imagine that, that is powerful enough, the breath of life, right? So the key takeaways, the key ideas here, the breath from God represents life. Breath is connected to spirit and vitality. In many ways, breath can be seen as the very first gift God gave humanity. It's beautiful, right? The Bible is just amazing. And then number two, the second point, biblical principle here, is the valley of the dry bones. Breath restores life. And again, breath and life are very interconnected. We have a scripture reference, Ezekiel chapter 37, verses 5 and 6 says, I will make breath enter you, and you will come to life. In verse 9, it says, come breathe from the four winds and breathe into these slain, that they may live. There's life in breath, right? And the key ideas here is that breath represents restoration and revival. And in this passage, breath literally brings life back to what was once dead. Now, the third key point that I want to lay down as foundation here is that Jesus breathes on the disciples. In John chapter 20 and 22, it says, and with that, he breathed on them and said, receive the Holy Spirit. I didn't even realize Jesus breathed on the disciples until I started reading the scriptures. So the key idea, Jesus used breath as a symbol of spiritual empowerment and renewal. So with that being said, it's clear that breath and the act of breathing plays a significant role in the believer's life, both spiritually and symbolically. So it is in the Bible, okay? So I know that that's probably a question that some people were wondering, right? So we wanted to lay that foundation. But let's jump into some questions that I have, Vanessa. So what typically happens during a breathwork session that allows people to process and release deep emotions? Like take us through like a session you would do.
Session. Okay. So I kind of start out by teaching the method, because it's just pattern breathing, and it's the breathing is only taking place through the mouth and not the nose, which we're not used to. So I help people get comfortable with that process, and then it's 4 rounds, and it includes holding your breath, which we're not used to doing that unless we're underwater, and that just causes, just like I said, all the stories to quiet down from the mind, because we're constantly telling ourselves these stories of how we need to fear, how we need to shame, and it just quiets the mind from that. And so you're left with your insight, your intuition, and I think a lot of questions get answered, without you even trying. I think anything that's causing you pain that you've been blocking has the ability to finally come out. And just your body. You are also releasing that energy that has been stuck through your body.
Yeah.
And like I was saying earlier, it is so powerful to feel that in your body. Just that tingling sensation of just all that stored trauma finally being able to release itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that speaks to when we're walking around with trauma, we don't recognize how it like affects the body, and so you just keep going. You just you don't stop. And so even with breathing, it's almost like a moment of like pausing.
Yeah.
To really just kind of connect with yourself. And then I think because trauma doesn't, I don't know, it seems like it shouldn't stay, right? Like I think it's a natural response to the body that's like, get it out. But like, then there's like an intention of like keeping it.
I love it that you said that, because the trauma's going to come out. But is it going to come out in the healthy way?
That's the point.
Are you going to be shouting at somebody at the grocery store,
right there,
or having less
there.
patience with your kids,
Wow.
or shaming yourself every day? Or are you going to come and do 45 minutes of some quiet breathing?
Yeah.
Because the trauma is going to come out.
It is.
One way or the other.
One way or the other.
Because we have so many people walking the planet today expressing themselves, not knowing they're actually spewing trauma, the effects of it, if you will, the yelling, the scream, the physical abuse, and so forth. Because a lot of times when you see that, a person responding that way, there's something behind that.
Right. There's so much pain behind
There's so much pain behind that. Wow.
Yeah.
So when you talk about trauma being stored in the body, right, can you kind of explain what that means?
So it's stored in your nervous system. And so something that happened 25 years ago, it gets stored in your nervous system. And so then you're operating life like if you were stuck in that event,
Stuck in time.
stuck in time.
Yeah.
And, I grew up with that, so I'm sure I'll get to that in a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
Well, I mean, and then that just kind of reminds me of like the first thing that kind of comes to my mind is like, deliverance. That's it's a way to, once you deal with the trauma, then you're able to be free. And, we, in church, we call it deliverance, right? But it's really just becoming free from the bondage of the trauma. So I think that's powerful.
But why is the stigma, though? See, this is what I've been struggling with, Vanessa. A lot of people may not even know that they need help. But people like you and I, we can't, based on our own experiences and our wealth of knowledge of dealing with other people, we could tell there's some traumatic event that took place in that person's life. We know they're not well, but they tend to mask it. Why? Why is it a more common thing for people to mask trauma, don't want to even deal with it, to ignore it, because now that trauma is putting stress on the body, they're acting it out? Based on your experience, why do you think people will more accept the bad effects of the trauma than to seek help?
Because I think it's very scary to admit that you're going through something. That
Wow.
it's really difficult to look in the mirror.
The man in the mirror.
The man in the mirror. And there's a shame that comes with it from society, you know? And so I think people are afraid to talk about it. I think people are afraid to tell people that are not okay. And I think that the more that we can share our vulnerabilities and our stories, shame dies. Shame cannot survive at tables where people are openly talking about it.
Wow.
It makes people feel less alone.
Right? So if they can just get rid of the shame,
Yeah,
knowing that everybody's got some
everybody.
issue.
It's honestly, it's part of the human experience. We would not be alive,
Right.
you know, if we didn't have to kind of transmute some darkness into light.
Do you think for us, there's a need to impress that's causing people not to want to willingly come out and say, I'll be vulnerable?
Absolutely. You know, I think even with myself, it's just, you know, this need, right, to kind of perform perfectionism, you know, but that also comes from trauma, you know, that really does also come from trauma, and just not feeling safe to expose your vulnerabilities, because at some point we learned that if we're vulnerable and we're real, we're not going to be accepted. And so those are stories that we keep telling ourselves, and it kind of just keeps us from improving ourselves, from being vulnerable with other people, from seeking guidance. And you know, I'm trying to create a space where people feel safe to let that all go.
You know, Vanessa, I'd like to hear a little bit more about your story. Like,
Yeah.
what led you to this type of work?
Yeah. So I was born in Puerto Rico, and my dad was drafted into the Vietnam War at 18. And one of the things that I think we forget is that the war doesn't end on the battlefield. It's just beginning. When you come back, you know, my dad suffered from severe PTSD. His brain was completely altered after that war. Wow. And for the same reasons we just spoke about, you know, he never reached out for any help. And so every day was a nightmare at my home. You know, just coming home from school was the scariest thing for me. There was so much verbal and physical abuse every day. My nervous system just, you know, was out of whack. There was moments where really, even at a young age, I just lost the willingness to want to live, you know, because it was so scary to witness and experience that abuse every day. And having to protect my mom, or having to protect my brother, and feeling so responsible for everybody. It was a really tough time. And that's also where I think I lost my faith, you know. I did. Right. And I think that's what happens, and kind of where we lose our faith sometimes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so then walk us through then how, like, you got even into breath work, and how did it impact you?
So it's so funny. So I had tried so many powerful holistic methods. And so this guy comes in, Salvatore, who brought in a pamphlet, and he's like, come try breath work. And I'm like, oh, please. Like, I've done so many other things. What's breathing going to do? But intuitively, like, I really did feel like I should go, even though I was knocking it. And I was like, this isn't going to do anything. So I laid on the mat. I did the hour, you know, session with him in a group. And I had one of the strongest experiences, you know, in the room. I was crying. I was, you know, finally letting go. We were in a group, so it was the first time where I was like vulnerable in front of other people. And I felt so powerful that I didn't need anything outside of myself, that I was just using something God gave me, my breath, you know? And I knew that I had to help others get to this space, because really I kept doing breath work, and it was like an onion. I kept peeling back the layers, because it's a practice. It's not you do it one time and now we're all healed. No, I was pulling back all those layers that have been suppressed, within me for so many years. And then he offered a training, and I was like, this is my mission, and it just felt so right. It felt so right,
Well, I need to ask, can I butt in and ask, you talked about, peeling back the layers. Let's stay there for a moment.
Yeah.
Because this is really good. Doing that is hard, though.
It is.
Because you're going to confront
Yes.
some things that you subconsciously think you've buried. They're still there.
Yeah.
How hard was that for you to confront those different layers that were buried?
It wasn't easy. But I just think that, when we see people, right, that are at peace, or we see people who have achieved success, we also have to understand that it came with shadows, it came with darkness, it came with facing those things, whether you're healing trauma or you're building a business, like all of those shadows are going to come at you, like the insecurity, the shame you've been carrying, the fact that you haven't been as forgiving as you thought you were. Then you have to forgive yourself, for, the way you reacted from your pain. And you have to kind of go back to some really tough memories and then have difficult conversations with family members, with friends.
Yeah.
And even your kids, I've been very open about everything that I've been through with my daughter, who's now 14. And I think it's brought us so much closer because she understands, the battles I had to fight. And I think it, she's going to think twice, when she's making choices in her life.
Wow.
So it's very powerful to peel back those layers, even though it's difficult.
You see, what I'm glad that you said, and hopefully this will help people to understand the importance of doing the hard work.
Yeah.
You didn't shy away from it. You had to have some tough conversations with family members.
Yes.
I know that was difficult.
It was.
Right? You had to do certain things, and I think for those of you who are watching, you have to understand this. Becoming the best version of yourself it's hard. It's self-work, and to deal with trauma, no matter what it is, doesn't have to be physical abuse. It could just be bad family relationship, a breakup from somebody you dated thinking it would lead to marriage and it didn't, or maybe you were married or in a marriage right now, or bankruptcy. Whatever the situation is, all of us are carrying around trauma. But until you do like Vanessa, where she was willing to peel back the layers, don't cover it up. Okay, this is what's wrong with me. This is the dysfunction that has been taunting my generation for a long period of time. We need to fix this. And then you got into the therapy of breath work, where, again, Vanessa, and I may get in trouble for this, but so many people, man, run to these medicines.
Right.
And I'm not knocking medicine. It's good. I've always struggled with sinus issues of my life. So, trust me, when I'm stuffy like I am now, I shoot anything up in my nostril I can. But the point I'm making, though, something simple as breath work, done the right way, under supervision, can help. And some people, they've tried drugs, they've tried everything else, and it's not helping them. Now, for me and Charlotte, we're new to this, but I'm quite sure in your industry, when you're telling people about it, breath work, they're like, what? What's this crazy stuff?
Right. I thought the same.
So, am I right?
Yes.
You get it all the time.
1,000%.
What does it take to kind of help them to rethink then the whole process?
For me, and I think for so many others, I think you have to get sick of yourself and your behaviors enough where you're like, You know
love
what?
it.
I'm going to try something new. And, repeating the same method over and over again without getting a different result is wild.
Yeah.
No.
Insanity.
Yes, insanity.
Yeah.
And so I was at a point where I was like, you know what? I will try breath work.
Wow.
I will.
Yeah, and it worked.
Anything, yes. And it worked. And so sometimes you just have to have faith that if you try something new, you're gonna get the result that you want.
So we have some crew questions.
Okay.
It's a thing we do here.
I love
Henry
it.
Fernandez podcast. So when you're releasing trauma, do you know what trauma you're releasing?
That's a really good one. Sometimes you do, and then sometimes you don't. What I always say with breath work is your body is so intelligent that it will know whether you need to go there and know exactly what you're releasing. Sometimes you're not ready. Because that happened to me, where I was like, I'm not sure what I'm releasing. I know, and it doesn't matter. We just need to release whatever it is at that moment. And our breath and our mind and our body is so intelligent, it will know exactly what we need to do in that session.
Interesting. Let me jump in here. For many people, how can they tell that they're dealing with trauma of family, if you will, generational curses? We talked about that when we're doing the table read, versus dealing with physical abuse. Like you were saying, you came home to a house where, unbeknownst to your dad, bless his heart, you know, it was his issue with Vietnam War and so forth. So I think the question really is, does someone know the different layers of those traumas, and how should they handle it?
I think most people do know most of the layers. I think, like we talked earlier, there are things that we have blocked so hard that until we start the process, we're not going to know.
Right.
And I think God knows when it's time for us to fight certain battles.
And you will know yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you will know yourself that, look, let this go.
Yeah.
Because I'm quite sure in your own personal journey, there were moments you didn't want to release certain things.
Yeah, because it's comfortable. I think our nervous system gets comfortable, even if it's chaos, it's comfortable in chaos, And so that's kind of what leads people to, let's say, get into multiple toxic relationships. If you grew up in an environment where your nervous system was only used to chaos, then, a healthy relationship is going to shock the nervous system, and it's going to be like, whoa, wait, like, I don't know what it's like to be in peace. And then you almost cause chaos because your nervous system only knows that. So breathwork kind of reteaches the nervous system that peace is safe. Like, it's okay to be at peace. It's okay to be in stillness. It's okay to be in quiet.
So what I'm hearing, it also helps you to make good decisions.
It does.
You know the difference between wrong and right. Because, it's funny enough you said it, there's a lot of viewers, we know our audience, and a lot of them have traumatic experiences in relationship.
Yeah.
A lot of people. And a lot of them just in this cycle of dating the wrong person all the time, and they'll tell themselves, oh, I'll never date any person like that ever again.
Yeah.
And they intentionally and really sincerely didn't have any intention to date the same type personality again, only to find out the next dude or next woman is the same.
Yep. I know that story. I do.
So people, all human beings, will go through that. But what you said before, which I really liked, is your body will tell you.
Yeah. Actually, your body knows before your mind. And that's very important with discernment, right? Because your body will start feeling, really uncomfortable, let's say around somebody that has, like a negative energy or...
It's your intuition.
Right, your intuition is like, But it's like your body will tell you before your mind because your mind will play stories.
Yeah.
And onto the intuition issue, I'm on this journey now where I was this kind of guy. My intuition would tell me something,
Yes.
and I would fight it and resist it.
I know.
Because, like, if my intuition says,
Right.
Vanessa, stay away from Vanessa. The vibes are not there,
Right.
whatever. No, she's a nice person.
Right.
No, I don't see anything wrong with. So I denounce my intuition because genuinely I want to believe you.
Yes.
And boy, you pay a hefty price for doing
You
it.
do. You do. I know. I've experienced that many times.
It leaves you where now you're out of breath. Like, oh God, how did I not see that coming?
Yeah, and we did. We saw it coming. We did.
Because our body was telling us that vibe, that intuition.
Yeah.
But we didn't listen. So our bodies can tell us.
Oh, absolutely.
God's using our intuition
bodies,
to say,
yes.
hey, that doesn't feel right.
Right.
Don't force it. Don't fit into that. But a lot of times, we disobey God.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think when we clear our trauma and we peel back those layers, we can trust our intuition.
Oh, believe me, I'm trusting that now. Oh, trust me.
Yes. Yes.
I will
Because
not ignore it
you
anymore.
start trusting, you start connecting with yourself so much through some of these practices that then when it does happen and your intuition starts saying something, your body starts saying, you're like, wait, no, I have a really good relationship with my intuition and my body now. And if it says something, I'm running for the hills.
I have a question here. Is it possible, and I don't know if you have an answer to this, that one of the reasons why we can't trust our body, trust our intuition, is because we get so busy doing life,
Absolutely.
we get distracted.
Yeah.
Well, we get distracted. We do. We do. I mean, if you think about your day, how much time do you take out to even drive without music? We always have something on. Even when we're doing something simple like driving. So I just think, that time to really connect with your breath is just, it's life-changing.
Powerful.
So I believe that, healing ultimately comes from God, really Jesus, right? Because he healed. We see different examples in the Bible of how Jesus healed. But what do you say to some people who are kind of cautious about this type of work, breath work, right? Where it's like, seems a little new agey.
Demonic. Oh, it's the devil.
Actually, that's. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, listen, it's our breath. God gave us all these amazing tools for us to heal ourselves. Because when I'm in the room with somebody, I'm not really doing anything. I'm just there facilitating a safe space for them. They're healing themselves with their body. And I feel that something that God has told us many times to connect with, is a very pure and natural thing. I think people should be more afraid of connecting with, some of the man-made, methods.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see it as, I've done some breath work before. I was going through a grieving process of my own when I had lost my first child. And actually, I was at my job, actually had somebody, a breathwork facilitator, actually come in. So,
Really? I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
it was just a
Okay.
random thing.
Okay.
And so I actually experienced breath work. It was through Zoom. It was a remote company at the time, so it wasn't like one-on-one. But I did, go through it. So I have gone and experienced that. And of course, the grief. It was a great experience during the grieving process. So for me, it wasn't necessarily about trauma, although I have my own story with trauma, but it was a helpful thing for grieving.
It
And
is.
so the company actually paid for it so we can have like multiple sessions. So it wasn't just a one-time session. It was like I think it was like monthly or weekly. So I can't remember.
And it helped.
And it absolutely helped.
Wow.
It really was. And so to your point, it is a tool,
is.
I can see the other side where God gives us everything, right? It's how you use it, right? And
Your
so,
intention.
Right. And so the idea is not necessarily to just be empty so that you can be inhabited by anything.
Right,
The idea would be so that you can pause
Right.
and really reflect and meditate on, well, what does the word say about me? And what does the word say about healing? And how can I allow Jesus to be able to heal me in a meaningful way? But I got to pause and I got to breathe. And if I don't stop and breathe, then I can't do anything else. I've got this trauma that just lives right here. And as you're speaking, another point that just reminded me again, I used to work with children in foster care and all that, and that it's a powerful thing that trauma can be healed. I don't think people understand that trauma actually can be healed. If you've ever seen, like, there's so many studies about it where, like, you see, like, the brain, like the traumatized brain, it's very warped, versus a brain can actually be healed from trauma. Like, it can, there's ways of doing it. And so this is another method to be able to kind of heal the brain of trauma.
You know, this is such a very good and healthy conversation that we're having right now. Because I cannot tell you, Vanessa, how many people out there watching who, again, society and, you know, just their own thought of this whole idea have caused people to feel shame to go out and look and seek help. You know, Charlotte just mentioned when she lost her first child. I had no idea that you did this therapy here because we have a world out there, especially in the Christian community, where whenever we're going through anything, if it's financial struggles, well, let's just pray. I believe in prayer.
Right.
Or, watch this, let's just sow a seed. I believe in giving an offering because you're supposed to support the work of the Lord. But then why not go to a financial advisor?
Right.
Somebody who's equipped and trained to help you manage your resources well.
Right.
Right.
Or when you get sick, well, let's pray. I'm believing God to heal me. I believe that. But He placed doctors on the earth. He has given them wisdom to study medicine, study the human body. Why don't you just go to a doctor and let a doctor check you out? And with prayer and the medical community, you can receive your wholeness.
Right.
Same thing when you're overloaded with the stress of life, because every day you get up, there's a whole lot of stuff on your calendar, from dropping off the kids, picking them up, going to work, you know, all that stuff. You've done it, you know, all that stuff. And then come home, you're for everybody, and then you can hardly find time for yourself. It is safe. I want you to hear me. It is safe for you to pray, get a counselor, but it's also okay for you to try some of these practices. Now, I'm not telling you to try anything that has the devil's signature on it, right? You know, I'm not telling you to go any therapy that says you chant the devil's name. Come on me, devil. Come on me. Heal me, devil. I'm not saying you ought to do that, right? But the point I'm making, Vanessa, is that sometimes help is available.
Yeah.
But because of our pride, lack of understanding, cultural training, we struggle to be healed.
Yep. And I'll tell you that when I did do the breath work, you know, because of course I'm at work and, you know, I didn't want them to be like, oh, you're just turning it down, you know, whatever. As a believer, sometimes we're like, no, I don't want to be too religious and all that. But I am cautious about it. But I will tell you that one of the things that I was like, okay, I'm always open to that. You know, like I've studied different things. So I'm like, listen, as long as you don't push something crazy on me, I'm okay. And that was the key.
I think that's very key.
Right. When I went through it, she wasn't talking to me about anything religious. It was all about practical. It was breathe, do it this way, do it for this amount of time, and guided, and there was nothing spiritual about it. You can make it spiritual.
Yes.
And I can absolutely see how you can bring scripture into it, because it says, the Bible says meditate on the word day and night. I can absolutely see where you can enhance your experience with that, and allow the Holy Spirit to come into that. But it doesn't have to be
Right.
in that way.
No,
And I think,
yeah.
to your point, Henry, that not everything has to be all
Yeah.
heavenly minded, that we're no earthly good,
Right.
because I think that God has given us a lot of things to use, if not everything. He made everything, and that we can use it to our
Yeah.
benefit.
And breath work is for everybody. It's something where all of my clients are different religions, and some people are not believers. And like I said earlier, I just hold space for people to kind of find what is meant for them.
Right.
Wow.
Awesome.
This has been an amazing conversation. And thank you, Vanessa, for sharing this new method of how we can be healed from trauma. And I just hope every one of you who had an opportunity to hear the conversation will begin to rethink. And if it's not even breath work, find a way to get some help. If you're carrying an overload of being a single parent, an overload of running a business, trying to take care of yourself. Some of you are taking care of your parents, you're taking care of your siblings. There's just so much. Some of you are coming from homes and family history that has a lot of painful memories, and so forth. I would hate to know that you are going to spend the next half of your life struggling, unhappy, when God has made so many things available.
Right.
The human body is so uniquely created that there's some things that your body can do by itself to fix itself.
Right.
I know I'm not a doctor, not qualified, but I learned that. Sometimes what we're trying to do, we're trying to tell God what he ought to do with the body he created for us, and I think we just need to release it because, my friends, healing looks different for everyone.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you said that. It's true.
Yes, it looks different for everyone. You understand?
And, a powerful thing that I thought about that kind of changed my perspective too is your kids are either going to inherit your trauma or they're going to inherit your transformation.
Yep. Powerful.
And we get to decide that.
Wow.
Powerful.
Powerful. So once again, healing looks different for everyone. But one thing we know is that God desires for us to live a whole, restored, and free life. Our hope is that today's conversation encourages everyone, including you, to take a step toward healing. Because our mission here at Henry Fernandez Podcast is helping you, your family, everybody who's attached to you, to become the best version of themselves. If today's conversation connected with you, please share this entire episode with someone, your family and friends. We'll see you next time. Thank you.